In the last few days, wildfires in Spain have laid waste to over 1,600 hectares, or 3,950 acres of pines and bushes in eastern Spain. Yellowstone National Park has been hit by huge flooding, sweeping away homes, destroying roads and bridges, and altering the landscape. Germany's been hit by huge hailstorms in Bavaria, leaving streets completely blocked. And in Venezuela, heavy rain has caused buildings to collapse and cars to be washed away. All of this extreme weather has caused officials to send out warnings, with the US Geological Survey saying that more extreme weather is coming our way, and that people need to keep away from areas that have been damaged. Yellowstone National Park superintendent said they've made a huge amount of progress in such a small amount of time, but said there's still a lot of work to do before things go back to normal. Although all this weather seems to have come out of nowhere, the US Geological Survey along with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have detailed that this weather has long been on their radar, saying that changes happening with Earth is causing us to be hit with more extreme weather, and worryingly they've said it's only going to get worse. One that many people are feeling right now is the extreme heat, and those in the United States are experiencing some record-breaking temperatures. A third of the US was under excessive heat warnings this week, as scientists have said that domes of high pressure have trapped hot air, and it's these heat domes that are causing temperatures to reach over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Most of the regions being affected the most are the south and southwest regions of the US. But weather maps show that these extreme heat waves are now happening in places like England, Paris and Rome, with UK researchers saying that London will now experience a heat dome, which could cause temperatures to rise over 40 degrees, which is pretty much unheard of in terms of London weather. Frederick Otto, climatologist and professor at the University of Oxford, said the following: "Climate change is a real game changer when it comes to heat waves. They've increased in frequency, intensity and duration across the world because of our burning of fossil fuels." According to the National Weather Service, they said that a variety of factors caused the flooding to happen at Yellowstone, with one of them being 5 inches of rain and 2 to 5 inches of snow melt, saying that this happened between June 10th and June 13th, and this caused flooding between the mountain ranges. And worryingly, this led to conditions that have rarely or never been seen across many areas of rivers and streams. National Park Service Director Chuck Sams said the following: "Yellowstone is a region shaped by our planet's mighty natural forces. This is what makes it so spectacular and unmatched anywhere in the world. This week's flooding reminds us that we humans are just one small part of this ecosystem." NASA and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration have also said that the moon's gravitational pull is having an effect on our weather. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said the following: "Low-lying areas near sea level are increasingly at risk and suffering due to increased flooding, and it will only get worse. The combination of the moon's gravitational pull, rising sea levels and climate change will continue to exacerbate coastal flooding in our coastlines across the world. It's estimated that within the next 100 years, over 100 million people living on coastlines across the world will have to move, as these areas will become completely or partially submerged by changing water levels." As highlighted by the researchers who worked on the data, they said that the real danger here isn't so much the volume, but the frequency in which these floods will hit coastal regions. The sad thing is that there's not really much we can do if this starts to happen. We can try and prevent floods by using barriers, but as mentioned by the researchers who looked into this, if a business is operating in an area that's getting hit by daily floods, it will eventually become submerged. People will no longer be able to work and live in the surrounding area, and that business may end up firing employees. They said this could be a trend that many will experience across the United States, and that as of right now we're going to find it extremely difficult to combat these extreme floods. On July 14th, 2021, The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration said the following on their website. Coastal communities across the US saw record-setting high tide flooding, forcing residents to deal with flooded shoreline streets and basements, a trend that is expected to continue into 2022, and this will go beyond without improved flooded defences. High waters are affecting coastal economies and crucial infrastructures like waste and stormwater systems and roads. The report's 2021 State of High Tide Flooding and Annual Outlook documents changes in high tide flooding patterns from May 2020 to April 2021 and provides a flooding outlook for these locations through April 2022, as well as projections for the next several decades. High tide flooding, often referred to as nuisance or sunny day flooding, is increasingly common due to years of sea level rise. It occurs when high tide reaches anywhere from 1.75 to 2 feet above the daily average high tide and starts spilling into streets or bubbling up from storm drains. As sea level rise continues, damaging floods that decades ago happened only during a storm now happen more regularly, such as during a full moon tide or with change in prevailing winds or currents. Nicole LeBoeuf, director of NOAA's National Ocean Service, said the following. NOAA's tide gauges show that 80% of locations where we collect data along the southeast Atlantic and Gulf Coast is seeing an acceleration in the number of flood days. High tide flooding disrupts people's lives when they can't get to and from work, or have to repeatedly deal with a flooded basement. NOAA is committed to working with coastal communities to provide the information and tools they need to tackle the problem of high tide flooding, both now and in the coming years as sea levels continue to rise. NOAA's water level records highlight regions of particular concern in Texas and Florida, with records also broken along the coast of South Carolina and Georgia. From May 2020 to April 2021, Galveston, Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas, and Bay Waverland, Mississippi set a record of more than 20 days of high tide flooding. These locations would typically only flood 2 to 3 days each year 20 years ago. Louisiana, Florida, South Carolina, Texas, and Panama City Beach all saw between 10 and 20 days of flooding. In 2000, these locations typically saw between 0 to 2 days of high tide flooding. According to NOAA, it's projected that high flooding around the American coastlines this year will surpass typical levels of flooding by around 60%. This has scientists worried, as it was initially thought it wouldn't be as high as this. Within the next 30 years, it's estimated that around 300,000 homes in the country, with a combined value of $117.5 billion, are likely to be at risk of chronic flooding. So what do you make of this recent announcement? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comments section below, and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.